Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today, we will explore the depths of The Trial by Franz Kafka. The Trial by Franz Kafka, first published posthumously in 1925, follows Joseph K., a seemingly ordinary man who is unexpectedly arrested by an obscure authority on unspecified charges. As he tries to navigate the bureaucratic and surreal process of defending himself, Kafka portrays a world where justice, reason, and individual agency are meaningless. The novel's exploration of guilt, powerlessness, and alienation has made it one of the defining works of 20th century literature, and it is often cited as a prime example of the Kafkaesque, an adjective used to describe absurd, oppressive, and nightmarish situations. Plot summary. One morning, Joseph K., a chief clerk at a bank, wakes up to find himself unexpectedly arrested in his own apartment by two warders, France and Willem. Confused, he asks them why he's been arrested, but they offer no explanation. They simply tell him that legal proceedings are underway, and he will be informed of the charges against him in due course. His landlady, Mrs. Grubach, is equally puzzled by the intrusion, but believes that Joseph is a respectable man who must have been falsely accused. Despite the arrest, Joseph is allowed to continue with his daily life, going to work as usual. His initial indignation over the absurdity of the situation fades into confusion. He becomes determined to meet with those responsible for his arrest and clear up the misunderstanding. Soon after, he receives a summons to appear at a hearing, though the details are vague. Joseph arrives at the designated location, a dilapidated building in a poor neighborhood. There, he is ushered into a room that looks nothing like a courtroom, but is filled with curious onlookers, all part of the mysterious legal system. Joseph meets the examining magistrate, a figure of authority who seems to hold power over his fate, but the hearing is chaotic, and Joseph's attempts to defend himself are met with laughter and apathy. He finds himself caught in a web of obscure rules, unable to make sense of the proceedings. The hearing concludes without any clear outcome, leaving Joseph more frustrated and confused than before. As Joseph navigates this bewildering process, he consults several people for advice. One such person is a court painter named Titorelli, whom he visits at his cramped, stuffy studio. Titorelli claims to know the inner workings of the court and offers Joseph dubious advice. He explains that the court's judgments are predetermined, and even if Joseph proves his innocence, the trial will continue indefinitely. Titorelli presents three options, none of which provide Joseph with true freedom: an acquittal, endless postponement, or a pro forma guilt. None of these choices satisfy Joseph, who leaves Titorelli's studio more hopeless than before. Throughout his ordeal, Joseph's personal life begins to unravel. His relationships become strained, particularly with Freiline Buissner, a young woman who lives in his building. Joseph's infatuation with her grows as his trial deepens, and he seeks her out, hoping for some kind of human connection. One evening, he enters her room under the pretext of apologizing for the intrusion caused by the warders on the morning of his arrest. However, the conversation takes an uncomfortable turn, and he kisses her, an act that leaves him feeling conflicted. As the trial drags on, Joseph's work at the bank starts to suffer. His professional standing deteriorates, and his superiors begin to view him with suspicion. His once confident demeanor gives way to anxiety and fear. Joseph's life spirals into disarray as he is consumed by the trial, which seems to invade every aspect of his existence. The court, shrouded in mystery, operates behind closed doors, and Joseph is never given access to any official documents. The labyrinthine bureaucracy only serves to deepen his sense of helplessness. Desperate for help, Joseph turns to his uncle, who introduces him to an eccentric lawyer named Huld. The lawyer is ill, bedridden, and surrounded by a host of strange visitors, including Lenny, his seductive nurse, who takes an immediate interest in Joseph. Despite her flirtations, Joseph feels trapped in yet another layer of this bizarre world. Huld offers little concrete assistance, and it becomes clear that he is just as much a part of the system as those who arrested Joseph. Joseph grows increasingly disillusioned and dismisses Huld, believing he can handle the situation on his own. Time passes, and Joseph hears little from the court. His life becomes an aimless journey as he drifts further from his old routines. He learns more about the court from various people, including a prisoner who lives in the same building and spends his days poring over court records. The knowledge Joseph gains does nothing to clarify his situation. Instead, it reinforces the hopelessness of his case. Everyone he speaks to seems powerless in the face of the court's overwhelming and impenetrable authority. As Joseph approaches his 31st birthday, he is summoned by two men to a secluded quarry on the outskirts of the city. Though he knows what this means, Joseph offers no resistance, passively following the men as they take him to his final judgment. They lead him to a desolate pit and hand him a knife. Joseph, in a moment of despair, realizes that he is expected to carry out his own execution. He hesitates, hoping for some intervention, some last-minute reprieve, but none comes. One of the men takes the knife and plunges it into Joseph's heart. His final thought is of shame, as if he has failed not only himself but everyone around him. Joseph dies without ever knowing the nature of his crime, without ever understanding the system that condemned him. The trial, from beginning to end, remains an incomprehensible force, an all-consuming entity that has stripped him of his dignity, freedom, and, ultimately, his life. Hope you had fun. There's more Where That Came From. Explore other books by Franz Kafka. Find them below or search Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in Franz Kafka's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.